Hi guys, Paulo here. So we are going to talk about a book I've recently read. I've been reading a couple of books at the same time because this one was very boring. I'm reading Grim Reaper by Stephen Elton. This is the author that created Meg, for example. This novel, I don't know if it's because of COVID and so on, but there are some hints here that remind me of the flu, all the theories behind how it was created and so on. It's a very interesting book. And the other I'm reading, it's this one, Under a Graveyard Sky by John Ringo. This is a very interesting novel, and also remind me, interesting or not, about COVID. So I'm reading those two. I always enjoy zombie fiction, so yeah, it's a must. So regarding the book I'm going to talk about, it's this one, Mysteries of the Worm. This novel was written by Robert Bloch. He was a writer, most famous writer from Psycho, the movie that Hitchcock then later made a film. And Robert Bloch was a prodigy, if you want to call it that, of Lovecraft. Okay, one of the most interesting here in these novels, in this series, is that every story has a preface, if you like a bit of story about how this came to be. Robert Bloch was very young when he started to read this kind of write this kind of stories. We're talking about he had 17, I believe, so it's very young, and he really loved Lovecraft, all his stories. Lovecraft had some saying in them, and when he started writing, he asked advice and so on. So every story had if the hands, of course, of Lovecraft. He even says in the end, because this book was published in the early 90s, and then in the early 80s, but then early 90s, and now again a new version. And these stories are basically all stories that involve the Cthulhu mythos, and most basically the best creation of, or the most famous creation of this writer Robert Bloch, that was put into the Cthulhu mythos. It's the mystery of the worm, or the mysteries something, the vermis mysteries in Latin. Initially Robert Bloch wanted to write the mysteries of the worm, but then the Lovecraft said, okay, what about saying in another language, not in English but in Latin, and thus the Vermis Mysteries was created. These stories were published, the first ones published in May of 35. Then he wrote around 10 stories or so, a bit more, between 35 and 39. And then Lovecraft died, and Robert Bloch even says that he lost interest in the Cthulhu mythos, and basically the Cthulhu mythos in him left, not left, but become more diminished, and eventually he ended writing about the Cthulhu mythos. One of the interesting parts here about the stories, they are more focus mainly in Egyptian lore. Okay, most of the stories are set, or at least connected to Egyptian lore, and there are some very interesting choices here, like Lovecraft killed Robert Bloch killed him again, and then again Lovecraft killed him again, and so on. There are very interesting stories about this. But what about the book? Well, this writing style, it shows that this is a pastiche. I believe this is what it says in English. They are almost copy paste from Lovecraft stories, but not well written compared to him. Okay, the later stories, the ones he wrote after 40, 50, those stories are better written, more plot driven, and less Lovecraftian. He commonly uses the same words for everything. Like one of the words I have said, he said in all stories it's queer, not like in nowadays queer, but the queer and the, let me say again, I'm not an English person, but what I can say by here is that the word queer nowadays means something related to LGBT Q, and queer it means in English, let me say, strange or odd. Okay, it's like gay. Gay doesn't mean what we know now, that LGBTQ, but gay as happy. Probably they are connected. I don't know. I'm not an English, I'm not an English person. I don't study English in that regard. But probably the queer makes sense, of course, because queer is strange, and these people are different, strange. But this is not the same. This word in every story you use that word. Every story you use the same word again and again and again. And so the first 5, 6 stories, so the ones he wrote when he was 17, 18, they are very identical. Okay, that's why I got bored. I read the first. It was cool, of course. I understand that he is not a young person writing, so I gave him the benefits of doubt. Then, as the stories progress, the same plot, the same story, the same writing didn't evolve. Okay, as I said before, he was 17, so we're talking about when he wrote when he was 17 to 22 or so. Okay, so that's commendable. Okay, I'm not saying that's not commendable, but as a person that is reading the story, I don't care. Okay, I said this previously. I don't care if the writer is black, white, gay, non-gay, whatever. I don't care. I care about stories. Okay, I don't care if he's young or old. If this was printed, I want to read a good story, and I am not afraid to give bad reviews because he was young, he's gay. I don't care. Okay, this was published, therefore I can make my review free of guilt, if you will, guilt of saying something bad or something that it may be hurtful. I don't care. If you wrote, if you write, if you make something that goes public, and you want to go public, of course, therefore you are going to be entitled to good and bad reviews. You are going to be, that's the price of fame. Okay, I'm not saying I'm a bad person saying this, but that's the reality. If this guy wrote and I paid bucks to purchase the book, therefore I have my opinion to say what I want, and I don't care. He was 17. I care that it was bad written. Okay, not that well written, and I'm not even English, because if I was English, probably I would even be more upset. I'm googling the reviews that I've seen in Goodreads, most people, the bad reviews, if you will, the rating is not that bad. We're talking about 3.99, so it's not that bad. But the criticism, it's the same thing. It's the writing style. It's the very connected with Lovecraft. He was a copy-paste writer, if you will. Of course, he has some merit, but the stories are not that good. Okay, the same applies with August. I don't know. Derlet, the guy who founded Arcade House and then published Lovecraft, and he is, truth be told, I have to say this, he is the main reason that Lovecraft didn't fall into oblivion, like many other writers from that period. Seabury Queen, for example, Clark Ashton Smith. This guy probably would get into oblivion unless he, Psycho was not a great hit, and most people don't know Psycho is from him and not from Hitchcock, I believe. Let me check, just because I don't want to say something that's wrong. But he what, Psycho? Or the Psycho was something that I don't know. I have to check it, because either way I will not be able to sleep and say there's something that's not correct. Yeah, this is Psycho is a book directed by Alfred Hitchcock. The screenplay written by Joseph Stefano, based on a novel of Robert Bloch. Okay, so Robert Bloch did create Psycho. Of course, probably if it wasn't for the movie, this book would go into oblivion. But either way, I digress. If you love Lovecraft, if you want to read more Lovecraftian stories, you have a lot of writers down here. And let's be real, there are two kinds of Cthulhu stories, okay? The first one is the persons that try to emulate or try to create something in the Cthulhu mythos, but the Lovecraft is the reason behind it. And then there are other writers that try to write in the Cthulhu mythos, but don't try to copy paste Lovecraft and other writers. What I say by this is this: you've got, for example, Robert Bloch, who tried to copy paste because he really loved Lovecraft. Okay, so there's that. And then there are other writers that try to get away a bit of Lovecraft, still being friends with him and being partners, like Clark Ashton Smith, like let me check. I'm trying to see, but there are one of the writers that tried to get away, Laird Barron. Yeah, he tried to get away a bit of Lovecraft. August Derleth was a copy-paste of Lovecraft. He tried to emulate Lovecraft. And then there are Richard Tierney and so on. There are a lot of writers there that tried to emulate Lovecraft. There are others that didn't. If you enjoy Lovecraft and want to read more stories in that vein, go with Brian Lumley. He's probably the best. August Derleth, it's also a good start. This guy I will not recommend, okay, unless you are a perfectionist and you want to read more, and then go. The book, it's €10 or so. There are this is from Chaosium Inc. There are a couple of books written by them. Cthulhu Dark Cults, for example, is a book published by them. Very cool story. There are three novels. Okay, they are not Cthulhu. Necronomicon, not the book, but stories upon the book. Another good start. It's The Strange Case of Rudolf Pearson. It's a detective professor slash more action, more Cthulhu. I really enjoyed. The Frontier Cthulhu, a bit different in the perspective, and so on. There are a lot of books there. Maybe one day I can make a video about Cthulhu stories, but for now I don't think I've read enough, probably in a couple of years. So that's it. Sorry for the length review. Overall, I will not recommend this book unless you are an avid Cthulhu Mythos person and want to read more in the same vein of Lovecraft. If so, go for it. If you want something new but inside Lovecraft, don't go here, because you'll not find it. You're not going to find it. In terms of rating, out 5 stars, I would give it a 2, because first, he was very young, and I can give him praise. Although I can criticize, I can also give praise of going after your dreams, in this case, in his dreams, where in a world that we're talking about 37, the Second World War was almost looming, and there were very many tension, and the Weird Tales was not that famous of a house, and so on. So I can give praise because he found it Lovecraft very young and tried to connect with him. So I can give him praise about that. Okay, and then the second star I would give it because some of his later stories are very good and very interesting. Like for example, I believe this is the last tale. A man is trying to create something new in art, and then he create a lens that makes him see the other realm, and something Lovecraftian appears, and so on. I'm not going to spoil, but that tale, it was the last tale, so it was written when it was 30 something, so a bit more old, and so it's in the writing style. You can see the difference. If you have read only the first and the last story, you not see the writer, you will not you'll not see that it was the same writer. Another criticism I can give this, and I forgot to say before, with almost all other Lovecraftian novels, and probably it was something of the an Arab, it's in the first person. I hate it. All stories are in the first person. I don't. There are no stories in this book that isn't in the first person. It's incomprehensible. So yeah, that's my review. Thank you.